Hello. Welcome to the channel, YouTube. So we're doing something a little bit different today. I'm gonna be doing some work on a Discord bot. Ajali, thanks for the new sub. Appreciate it. Just saw it come through. Hopefully I said your name right. I'm going to be doing a Discord bot today. This is not the normal shipping app that I've been working on up to this point. I actually recently rebranded. I guess we'll start with that. We rebranded an entire Discord community to fullstack.chat. So if you go to fullstack.chat in your browser, you're going to get dropped right into this landing page we got here, and it's going to basically walk you through the rules, make sure like, hey, you agree to them. There's not a whole lot of rules. It's just don't be a jerk. It's kind of how it sums it up. But I got to outline it because we've had incidences where some of the stuff actually needs to be explicitly defined, and I don't really understand why. But here it is. So yeah, come hang out. And as part of fullstack.chat, we now have a fully custom Discord bot, which is used to track primarily right now experience points within the Discord server. So this way, the more active you are, the more points you get. You get over level 5, you become eligible for giveaways, which we're going to start doing right now, I think once every other month, but it's going to eventually go to once a month, possibly even sooner, depending. I'm the one fronting the cost for that, so donations are helpful. Yeah, you said it right. Star Charlie from the Discord group. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Learn Build Tech is James Quick's group from Auth0. Met a lot of cool people on there. They got some good conversations, so feel free to check that out. I don't have a link to it, so I can't do an invite. Ajali, if you got a link, feel free to drop it in the chat. Whoever wants to join can. I got no problem with doing some cross promotion here. Yeah, gonna have to catch us later at snap time. Cool, you're doing this. Yeah, cool. It'll be on my YouTube channel. You could use the same link that I dropped in the Discord channel. So, yeah, well, I want to know what you think. Appreciate it. All right, cool. So, yeah, come stop by my Discord. We got a lot of cool things in the process. I'm still thinking through some of the things, but really the whole goal is to empower developers, empower new developers, especially people who are just coming up into this group. I'm a full self-taught developer, so I know what it's like to jump into this world with absolutely no background or experience in it, which is why this is kind of my way of giving back. I've had a good amount of success in my career so far, so I really just want to help other developers out there. That's the whole reason I started. Anyway, moving on. So, but anyway, that's the bot we're going to work on today. I got some new features I want to add. So the other thing I want to throw, a couple other things actually. Coding NodeJS APIs. My series is complete. There's a 6-part series on my YouTube channel. The last video got released on Monday. It goes over how to deploy it to AWS. So we start with just basically creating a simple Hello World API, and I walk through different concepts of how the different HTTP methods work, how that just very, very ground level web service stuff works. We cover, if I can pull this back from memory, authentication, routing, and different HTTP methods, saving to databases, deploying to AWS. We also get into data validation, and I think that's everything. So, and I guess with that, one more announcement, a little bit thing. I'm putting the building series things kind of on hold for a little bit. I got burnt out from it, if I'm being entirely honest. And there's some other videos that I want to record. I'm still planning on releasing a video next Monday, but it's going to be on something different. So, we'll get there. Let's see. The next things that I really want, I'm not going to do this one, but the other things I wanted to just kind of throw out there is, reopen this tab, is I have open sourced a good deal of some of the work that I've been doing lately. So the first one is this actual bot. The bot's open source. What I'm working on today is open source. You can get in, you can contribute, you can have fun with it, you can use it. Don't really care. Everything in here is open to the world, so feel free to go check that out. You can actually use the command I added. Let's see if this works. Let's try out a new command. GitHub. Okay, it doesn't work. CloudBot apparently is not working the right way. So if you go to github.com, Morrison Dev, you can see all of my repositories. I have cool stuff like this that I work on. I try and open source more. Plus, if you're interested in the whole tutorial series thing, every single article and video that I write has an associated GitHub repository to it, so you can go on my profile and just cruise around and find some stuff that interests you. Package starter this is actually something I built this week for my work, my day job. I wanted to build some CLI tool for what are we doing for sending notifications into our Microsoft Teams tenant. So this way, when a build completes, it'll send it out. I'm also in the process of doing it with Octopus. That uses Jenkins. I'm in the process of doing one with Octopus. So this way, when a deploy completes, it sends us a notification with the status and everything that happened there. So PKG, I'm just going to call it package, is a pretty nice node library, which actually lets you compile, I'll say. I'm going to use the term compile, even though I don't know that there's actually any kind of compilation happening, but it converts your node application into an executable or a binary that just can be run independently. I haven't directly tested that personally, but that's kind of the point, so I'm just going to take their word for it. I ended up having to install Node on the server to build this thing because it is the build server, but you know, it seems cool. So fullstack.chat is actually this website. This is completely open source. So if you go to fullstack.chat repository on my GitHub, you can pull that, have fun with it, do whatever you want with it. It's built using Gridsum, so it's Vue.js. It's all static content. It's not pulling from any kind of database or backend CMS of any kind. So that is there. And then the last thing I open sourced, I don't know that I had talked about this in my last stream, but this JWT builder is a way for you to mock up JSON Web Tokens. So you can test authentication with front-end applications. And the reason I built this was for a shipping application that I work on. Actually, most of the one I work on the stream. I wanted a way to quickly be able to test out the different claims inside of that token and send it into my application, have my application process things in a certain way. So this I threw together pretty quick. If you go to jwt/builder.netlify.app or Netlify, however you say that, that's the app. Actually, why not? I'll show it off. Here's the thing. It defaults to jwt.io, just so you can see the token. And you can see inside of this editor right here, you could just put in whatever claims you want here and just click go. There's go or go in new window. The ID token is passed in as a hash parameter in the URL, and jwt.io shows it. This is a test blah, which is this claims that we had sent here. That's all there is to it. Very simple. So today, I have a couple of, this is a Trello board that I'm using to track the progress of development tasks on the bot. I've got these 4 ones right here I'm going to try and do. We're going to start with converting my XP system that I have put together. We're going to implement something I'm going to call lifetime experience points. So I don't want people necessarily to have their experience points completely wiped out when the giveaway is done. The whole point of the giveaway is once you reach level 5, you're eligible for the giveaway. So it encourages people to be active within the server in order to get the perks of the server. And I'm eventually going to start gating some things behind activity, because really I don't want the server to just be a place that people come out and lurk, you know, and take advantage of some of the things there. I want them to actually engage. So we're going to be kind of working on that a little bit. I might not do seasonal, quote unquote, versus lifetime versus current. What I'm kind of thinking I might end up doing instead is take the actual XP and instead of resetting it, just make it so this way as people are inactive in the server, I'm going to run a script. So like if you're inactive for 24 hours, you lose say 10% of your experience points, and then another 24 hours, you lose 10%, another 24 hours, you lose 10%. So over time, basically it encourages people to be more active. I might, at 24 hours is kind of a close. Maybe you lose 1%, 2%, 5% every 24 hours. I don't know. Maybe we'll do 2-3 days. I don't know. Anyway, chat, if you got any suggestions, I'm open to it because I haven't fully thought that one through. But I'm just trying to encourage people to be active in the server. And the other thing we're going to work on a little bit today is Twitch go live notifications. That's actually last on my list. Users should be considered active to promote within the server. That I think is actually going to go on the backlog. I don't think we're going to get to that today. So if I can get the XP stuff down, we're going to then go into how to implement YouTube go live notifications and Twitch go live notifications so people can subscribe themselves in the server and say, hey, I'm going live on Twitch. You know, if they have a live channel, they can basically just register their channel with the server, and provided they stay active and helpful within the server, the bot's automatically just going to broadcast them out there so they don't have to actually post a link. Same thing with YouTube. I'm going YouTube first because I'm on YouTube. I've got to be like the only developer that actually streams on YouTube, so, but it's my bot, so I'm gonna do what I want. All right, so let's get into this first one here. So implement lifetime versus current experience points so that XP is reset. It only affects the seasonal giveaway. Yeah, as I said, I kind of want to, I might just end up writing a script that goes along with this that starts taking away XP as people are inactive. So basically, if you have, and I don't want it to, I want it to go away pretty quickly too. So like I don't want people to go for like a whole year without chatting and then come back and they're still like a level 5, they're still eligible for giveaways. I want it so this way, if you're inactive for like 2 days, I think I'm going to start the timer at 2 days. Like if you haven't said anything in our Discord within 2 days, it's going to start taking XP away from you, maybe 10% a day. And I think that sounds kind of fair. Maybe 3 days. So let's say 3 days. All right, let's write this criteria down actually. So let's see. I'm going to type out if the user is inactive for 3 days, take away 10% of XP per day. So basically, it gives you a total of 13 days. We can do, yeah, I think 3 days is fair. So it's not quite 2 weeks. So basically, if you're in the server and you're not active for 2 weeks, you're reset. You go back to 0, which means you lose all those perks. I think this is a good place to start, and then we'll see where this goes. That said, this doesn't really fall into the realm of the bot itself. Like the bot is not going to necessarily do that. This is going to be some kind of external system. You know what I'm actually going to do is right now I'm storing all the data in Azure because it was the simplest and quickest way to get up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a backup of everyone's XP before I start screwing with things. Second, let's see if I remember this goes. Oh, here we go. Storage account, storage explorer, tables, FSC bot. All right, so we'll edit. I'm going to edit this. That's portfolios. So that's one of the other cool features I've implemented in the bot is this portfolio system. I can actually bring this up real quick. And see, this is just one way to empower developers. So if I go to, oh geez, Couchbot, Couchbot double promoted me. So if you're in the chat and you type in the command FSC, and I think it's portfolio, add, and then a website, it does this thing right here where people can basically create an index of their portfolios, their dev portfolios, so people can go visit it. It was just one idea. I don't know if this is going to be, you know, a big deal, but it seemed pretty cool with me. The other idea we're thinking about implementing is member cards. So like embeds can be added to the server, and then those will be added into a completely separate channel. And then if you click, and then the member portfolios or member profiles will have direct links to each one of those cards. So we're still thinking through that feature. I don't know what's going to come out of that. But that's what that portfolios is. XP data. Okay, that's the bad. I don't know that I need this one. I don't want to do anything with it. So we're going to copy all this off. And I'm going to go to my secret screen because I am going to pull up Sublime Text. And Sublime Text is normally where I hold a lot of stuff I don't want other people seeing. So bear with me for 1 second. Speed back up. All right, so we got that done. But everything really is going to happen inside of this FSC bot test. All right, so I have my own little test server. Actually, I got to go back to Discord. To this guy here. So this is just our little testing playground-y server thing. I've got a completely separate bot setup, but the same logic's being used. So let's close that. Let's see, FSC bot. So if I run this, whoops. Let's kill that. Come up with a new one. Oh, I broke VS Code. Turns out it doesn't like it when you paste a giant blob of JSON into the terminal. Oh, it really didn't like that. Okay. Guess you're going away. Bring this thing back up. All right, it's working. So npm run test should be what we want. It doesn't like that. C bot. Oh, npm run dev. Okay, so it's ready and it's running. I'm going to keep that down here nice and low just so I can see it in case something does break. So I can register. You know what I can do is I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to say create a new folder. Actually, we're going to call scripts. And we'll create a new script in here, and we'll call this thing decrement XP for inactive users. All right, so what I can do then is I'm going to use another npm package that I actually wrote. Let's go to, actually, I think my GitHub has it. Yeah, script scheduler. So this is another little tool that I wrote that wraps, I think node scheduler is what that's called. And what this will do, see, here's the npm package. And what it'll do is it lets you pass in a specially formatted node file, JavaScript file. If you have a cron expression set up, it'll run at that interval. So it'll run every, hour, 2 hours, whatever. So I think that every hour is probably a good approach to this. So we're actually going to kill the bot. npm install, and we'll install script scheduler. And then inside of our app startup is when we'll go ahead and initialize that. npm run dev. Okay, it's ready. So inside of here, I can do here. Let's make sure that this works. So I'm going to pull up my website too, because my website has a sample of how to use this. More info here. Oh, that URL's broke because I migrated my website after I did this. Oh, it doesn't work either. It's blog. Or I can just not type. There we go. So yeah, here's basically everything we need right here. And it'll import everything. It'll scan that directory and it'll import every single script that's inside of there and just run them all. So I'm going to paste that here, and then we'll do some rejiggering of this code. Here's all our custom imports. I'm going to put this a little bit higher, even though it's a program that I wrote. I don't, let's see, dir name, scripts. Anyway, let's create a new file and call this test scheduler. And module.exports. And let me take a look at what the format. Yeah, here's the format right here. So this should actually do exactly what we want here, what I wanted to do is test it. So you can see this script is scheduled to run. It's enabled to run. It's scheduled to run every minute, I think is what this means, if I remember. And then yeah, so it should run every minute, and all it's going to do is just log out. The script will run every minute. I should have just read my console.log text that told me exactly what it's going to do. So let's save that. FSC bot ready. Save that. Make sure nothing blows up. It didn't like that, so it's console.log out our baster. This leads me to believe that it actually did pull it in. Yeah, because you see test scheduler, it pulled it in, but it's not actually running it. We might have to rethink this approach. SRC scripts. It should run, but I think it's got to run. Oh yeah, it does. It has to run on the minute. I forgot about that. Okay, so yeah, this will actually work. So if I set this thing up to run every hour, that's exactly what I'm interested in. Because this way then I can keep, what I was originally thinking about doing is setting up something outside of the bot system to handle this, but if this is going to all be contained within the bot, that'd be preferable anyway. Okay, so instead of test scheduler, we're going to copy this and paste this here, and we want this thing to run every hour. So maybe instead of the function, we can call in our XP service, because that's where a lot of the magic happens behind the XP. So we'll do const XP service equals require. And let's pass in services and then XP service. And we'll say in here XP service dot decrement XP for process. XP interval. That's probably a nice name for a function. I don't know that I need, yeah, I do need that because the function is actually returning a function. Okay, so I'm gonna kill the bot because if I save this and restart, it's gonna complain because we haven't created that function yet. Okay, let's collapse some of this stuff down again. And you can see I have console.log because this thing is running inside of a Docker container on my server right now, so I can hit the logs and see the output from the console.logs inside of the container to figure out what's going on. I had at one point set my server to output that, or to send that output to Elasticsearch, an Elasticsearch instance that I have, but that's not working right now. So what are you gonna do? Function. And what we'll do is we'll say, see, data is what holds the data. So when the bot starts up, this exports.init actually reaches out to the Azure storage account table service and pulls down all the data and caches it in memory. And every time that this is updated, I kind of went with a quasi-repository pattern, where every time this is updated, then it commits the data back into the database, but it keeps everything in memory. I didn't do it like I guess, yeah, I kind of did a repository pattern because I am explicitly calling save. If I understand that repository pattern correctly. I need some water, hold on. Alrighty, so what we want to do, get all the users, make this a little bit bigger. Jeez, it's big. So we want to get all the users, and there is a last heard from timestamp, I think. Current last XP applied timestamp. Check if over we're probably going to have to actually add a field into there to say it was last decremented at this specific time, or like last heard. I'll have to set up specific intervals, I think would be fine. If over 3 days, remove 10%. Let's see, if over 3 days, 4 days, remove 10%. So basically, if it's divisible, if it's over 3 days, and it's divisible by this guy here, we can divide it by 24 hours in milliseconds to find out how many days it's been. I think I'm going to run this thing in kind of a quasi like logging mode first. I'm not going to commit this into the production system because people have actually acquired XP. Actually, what I need to do is I need to set up, hold on, I got to take a note for that. Set up backups of Azure table service. And honestly, I could just copy it from one table to another and overwrite it every single time it does that. That would be fine. But I need to do that. So instead of screwing people's stuff up. Okay. So if it's over 3 days, remove 10%. If it's over 4 days, remove 10%. I think we can use modulus to, we can use the remainder to figure out how many days it's been. I don't know how to write that. I know object.keys, and we'll pass in the data. And we'll for each, let's see, user ID, data, user ID, ID.current XP. I'm going to set up the shell for this thing, and then I'm going to run it, and I'm going to just kind of just log the output of what I would expect it to be, and then we'll see where it goes. So we got the XP, and then we can bring all this stuff inside of here because this is all going to happen right inside here. So if last XP applied timestamp divided by, let's see, what would 3 days be? Const 3 days in MS equals 24 hours in MS times 3. Divided by 3 days equals 0. Mod, no, we need mod. What a modulus. It's like this guy, right? Percent sign is modulus. Actually, had somebody in our server question why, you know, whether your senior developers actually Google stuff, and you see me Google stuff directly on the thing. Yeah, so that times 150. What are we doing here? Modulus gets the remainder. Yeah, so 5 divided by 2, the remainder is 1. So that's what we're looking for. So we want it to be 0. Then if it's after, we can do a giant switch statement, but that's not going to be very efficient. Let's I guess if we can do 24 hours in MS equals, see, 24 divided by, that will never be that. I need to compare that against the current timestamp, so I'm going to grab that from up here. Current timestamp, so if last XP applied time, the current timestamp is always going to be higher. So current timestamp minus last applied XP. I'll wrap these here, make sure this gets done first. I guess I can do this. Let's see. Let days since contact equals this guy by 24 hours. So the current time minus the last applied is actually going to give us the time difference between when it happened. If it's divisible by 24, that's how we're going to figure out. So we get the modulus from dividing by 24. We can find out how many days it's been. So let's say if since contact equals 3, I need to figure out how we can determine if that's a whole number. Oh, it'll always be a whole number because it's a remainder. Right? I gotta test this. Sometimes I get up in my head about thinking about how I'm doing this stuff, and I don't know that's actually working. So let's open up our console here. Let's do some playing around inside of here, figure out what's good. Let's see. Let current time equals new date. Right? No, it's date.now. Date.now with an uppercase. So current time, let's 3 days ago equals current time minus, and what's the constant I have here? 864 and all the zeros. So then we'll say current time minus 3 days ago equals 84. Okay, so numbers seem right. Wait, that's hold on a second. I need to do current time times 3. Three days ago, so we'll do current time now minus 3 days ago. Why is it still coming out as 86400? Times 3. Okay, that's different. So that would be our interval for 3 days. So if we take, and then we do mod 24 hours, that's going to give us 0, actually, isn't it? Yeah, because it is divisible. So maybe that's not what we want to do. Divided by 3. Math is hard. how would we do this? So this is a value that equals 3 days. We know that, right? Because 86,400 times 3 is 3 days, right? Because if we do 864 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 3, should be that. Okay, that's basic math. But we want to find out how many days that is. So we actually have to divide that by 24 hours, right? So this divided by 864, yeah, okay. So if we did modulus times the 864, 864, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gets 0 because it divides by 3. Or because it divides by that value. I'll make this bigger. Get rid of that. So basically what I need to do is I need to find out time equals 3 equals 24 hours times n. So divide it by 24 hours. Divide it by this 3. Okay. So we could do if it's greater than 3 and less than blah, don't do anything, but I'm trying to find out a way if I can track this without actually having to write a giant statement around this. I probably can, but let's just start with the giant statement, see what we get from that. So days since contact is just actually not modulus, it's just divided by, right? So 3 days in MS, I don't know that I care necessarily about this. So we can see days since contact. So if it's less than that, then it will be 3. It will only be 3. Oh, it's probably never going to equal 3 unless the current timestamp happens exactly 3 beforehand. So if days is since last contact is greater than 3, then we'll decrement. Days since contact is greater than 4 and less than 5, but every time it runs, it's going to hit that. I'm going to have to keep track of the count. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to keep track of that count. Count the number of times it was removed, because if it gets up to 10 times, yeah, so if I did like if is less than 3, we'll decrement 10%, and then we'll also set decrement count equals 1. Well, guys, I guess activity penalty. Like that. Yeah, I think this is going to work. I don't really, actually don't even need that, but I will need to do something before. So if it's that, we will say data and then the user ID dot current XP equals current XP times 0.9 times 0.9, like that. And not penalty count. Yeah, so if the penalty count doesn't exist and it's greater than 3, we want to remove it. I think this works. and penalty count, let's see, equals 1. Then we'll do the same thing. There's got to be an easier way to do this, but my brain is not working the right way right now. Let's come back to this actually. I'm gonna let this thing kind of settle a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back because, like I said, there's got to be an easier way to do this that I'm not thinking of quite yet. Sometimes I just write a bunch of code and then I stare at it a little bit and then I'll figure out exactly what I want to do with it to make it look a lot cleaner, a little more efficient. But anyway, the other thing we have to do is under the not process XP level, under log XP, we could say if not user, and then inside here we'll say if user.decrement, let's see, what did I call this thing down here? Penalty count, and user penalty count is greater than 0, then we will delete user.penalty count because we don't want it there. Right? If it's 0, it's not going to make a difference. But if it's greater than 0 and it does exist, then we want to just clear it out. Let's see, clear penalties. The bot already removes. Yeah, I think this is going to work out pretty good because the bot already moves. The bot already removes your multiplier. So like inside of this bot, there's a multiplier. So when you chat, there's a 5-minute timeout. And then when you, let's see, when you chat, there's a 5-minute timeout after each. So you can't just keep spamming the chat for more, points, right? But the more active you are, your multiplier can go up to a maximum of 5. And it just basically, like I said, encourages activity. So we're really probably just going to do this here. I'm just gonna do this right now. I don't like the way this looks, but it will work for now, and it'll get me onto the next thing, which is the good stuff. Because I'll come back and clean this up at some point. So 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8, and then 9, and then finally, if you hit your 10th penalty, so it's been 10 days. So wait, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need one more. 9, 10, 11, 12. So if you've been active for 12 days, and basically it's just going to say your XP is 0. And we need to do this here. 2. And I'm actually going to wrap this here too. And or penalty count does exist, but it equals 0. Because I guess that is a possibility. It's kind of a remote possibility. I don't see that happening, but still. 3, 4, 5. I guess maybe I do need one more. No, because this hits 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so if you hit your maximum day and your penalty's there, then yeah, you're gone to 0. Okay, I think this should work. I'm not gonna release it out to production yet because I'm not gonna. Oh no, this is actually gonna modify it. We're going to create another function down here. I have an idea. Const decrement XP equals function. And it's going to take 2 parameters. I think the user ID, and it's also going to take the days since contact and the penalty count. No, is being reset would be fine. So if is being reset, reset. If is being reset, then we will call this guy. Otherwise, bring this guy in here and we'll decrement it by 10%. So now I can take this, and actually what we're going to do is we're going to comment this whole thing out and say console.log user ID been inactive for days since contact. Okay, and then we'll do else. XP is now, and then I'll pass in this guy right here. I guess it's not going to make a difference because XP I could do times. This will give us a vague idea if this is going to work the way we want it to. It's not going to be exact because if you keep taking 10% off, it's not going to always go down to 0. It'll just keep taking a little bit off the top until it gets all the way down. Yeah, I need to figure out an algorithm to match these two numbers. I'll figure out how like 9 and 6 can somehow work together, and 1 and 2 actually just subtract 3. I'm gonna take a note here. To do compare days contact with penalty count, just subtract 3. I might come back to fixing this now, or I might do it tomorrow, I'm not sure. But decrement multiplier equals 0.9 times days since contact. Or I guess I can do iterations. Yeah, we could do this actually. This will give me a better idea. Days since contact, penalty. Days since contact. Yeah, we do need a penalty count. No, I lied. I can't because I'm not actually setting the penalty count on anything. No, I can set the penalty count. Well, actually, I'll know what they are because it's going to be inside of here. There's got to be a better way to do this. I've only got a few more minutes here, actually. Jason's contacts. My brain is clearly not working tonight. All right, you know, I'm gonna put this thing on pause because I am not I'm not really in a mental state to deal with this right now. Let's see. Let us do exports. Actually, I'm not even gonna bother doing this. We're gonna leave this as is, and we'll just get back to this. I'm gonna come in here, and I don't need test schedule. I can delete that. And decrement accepted. It will set this to false, which is gonna disable it. And actually, I'm just going to comment this whole thing out because I'm going to need to create the function, otherwise it's going to complain every time it tries to call it. Actually, no, it might not. Let's try and run this. Something crashed. Oh, must have left some broken code over my XP service. Yeah, it doesn't. I knew it wasn't gonna like that. Okay, let's scrap this. I'm gonna revisit that when I have time to think my own. Sometimes I like to. Sometimes I just think better when I'm not on screen. I'm sure a lot of people do that way, but such is life. So I'm gonna go for the Twitch notifications, and the reason being is because I already did some testing with the Twitch stuff. Actually, I'm gonna turn my desk down. I did some testing with it already, and I know what I need to do in order to make this happen, in order to authenticate against their API and just get everything flowing the right way. So I'm going to actually go with that route instead. Okay, just my mic. Back. All right, so I'm gonna actually just commit this code. I'm gonna branch it actually. Create new branch, feature. I don't usually like creating branches. I usually work everything off of master or main, but XP decrement. I don't want this code to get all bundled up with everything else. So we're gonna create a branch and say started work on XP penalties, and we'll push this up. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to master. Everything should be the way it was before. Let's close all of our editors. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. I try to make it as big as possible for the stream, but it is really hard for me to see how with everything so big. All right, so our command that we're gonna just set up the service first. So we'll do new file. We'll do Twitch service.js, and we want to do a couple things. We want to authenticate. We're gonna store the token it gives us. For every request, we're gonna check that token to see if it actually needs to be refreshed. Coffee. Night over here. I'm going to be up for a while, so we need to authenticate. We need to subscribe to a person. We need to unsubscribe from a person. We need to re-authenticate, which I guess we don't really need to re-authenticate. We can say with these two calls, they can check the age of the token or the expiration, and if it's over expired, re-authenticate and get a new token. We're going to have to store the token, so store the token. So we're going to have to use our Azure table service. I think this is a good starting point. So Let me take a look at here. I'm looking at what do you call it? I'm looking at stuff off to the right-hand side here because I need to grab some secret stuff. Okay, so you can still see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna set above everything else. We need to import Axios because we use web requests for all this. Const Axios equals require Axios. And then we're also going to need to set a base URL. So const base URL equals, I guess, auth base URL. Because I think the actual API URL is different from the authentication one. So equals https id.twitch.tv/auth2/token is what we're using there. And actually, that can probably go right inside the store. So let token equals an empty string. Actually, that's going to be an object because we're going to store the actual bearer token, and then we're going to store in the expiration date, and we can check against that expiration date to see if we need to re-authenticate. I guess we could do get. We can wrap that inside of a get token, which will be called from subscribe user and unsubscribe user, and then the logic to re-authenticate will be inside of there. So let's see. We will say exports. Do I need to authenticate externally? Probably not. So we'll say const authenticate equals function. We don't need any parameters there. So our URL is actually going to be a post. So let options, LPTS, these are the Axios options. We're going to say URL is going to be this guy here. I don't need this for anything else, so I actually don't need to store that up top there. So we're going to get rid of this. Auth token, and I'm going to bring this up here because we're going to do some... I'm going to make this in multiple lines so it's easier to read. So let auth URL equals this guy. I'll set this to auth URL. I like that to be capitalized. So the camel case. Okay. Token, and then let's see, we have auth URL plus equals. We'll do question mark client underscore ID equals, and then I'm going to pass in process.env.twitch client ID. I'm going to store this inside of my environment variable, so this way it's not actually in the code. And my environment variables stored locally are not being hidden anymore. Let's see, so I want to fix that real quick. Preferences, open workspace settings. I don't remember what it is offhand. Hold on, I just had this up earlier too because I was looking up how to do it. Hide files in VS Code. Files exclude. This can definitely be pulled in. And then we want to do .env star, all the environment variable files. And we will set the, we'll set that to true. And it should hire, but I also want to do .env.sample because that's our sample.env. We'll make that false. It doesn't matter. It still doesn't like that. Okay. No big deal. Hide them all. Okay, so these last two ones are actually going to be ampersands because we're chaining these things together. And we're going to do client secret, client underscore secret, and this is going to be Twitch client secret. And grant type, we don't actually need any kind of interpolation happen here, so we'll say ampersand grant underscore type equals client underscore credentials. So we're using the OAuth client credentials flow. Let's save that. And our token is going to look something like this. So it's going to be like that, and then we have an access token is equal to a string. We have an expires in is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. It tells you the, I think it's the seconds until it expires. And then we have a token type, which will always be bearer. So I'm going to comment that out so we have a reference of what that's going to look like. But our token is basically going to be stored in here. And I'm going to do something a little bit different too. Like I'm going to store the access token, but I'm going to calculate the expires in already and just store that value up inside of the token. So this way I can just do just a simple operation when I'm inside of this get token. So it'll always make sure the token's up to date. This is actually going to be an async function too. So auth URL that's going to be our auth URL. We have our method, which is going to be post. We have, let me take a look at my reference point here and make sure that I don't have any kind of headers or anything that's being sent in. No, nothing else interesting. So that's, excuse me, that's pretty much it. So now we can do await, let's see, let response, await Axios, options, and then if all goes successfully, so we're actually gonna try catch this. Try catch error. I'm just gonna put a comment here to handle this later. To do handle me. Let response equals that, and then we want the let's see, the token dot access token equals response dot data dot access token. The data is the actual body of the response, and then token dot expires. So expiry equals I guess it would be date.now. Sorry. Date.now plus response.data expires in. Let's look at the, I'm actually going to look up the Twitch documentation because I want to check to see what that is. Twitch API. Okay, so if I go into authentication, to getting tokens, so this says tokens return expires in, which shows how long it would last. 3600 is usually, yeah, so if they're showing 3600 here, that's usually seconds, because I think 3600 translates to an hour, if I remember, in seconds. Oh, well, seconds of arc is 1 degree, so that's helpful. Seconds, 2 hours. 1 hour, yeah. So that's a second. I know that's a second. But if I do JavaScript date.now, what is it? Is that seconds too? Number of milliseconds. So we're going to have to take date.now divided by 1000. So that's milliseconds, and that is, or you know what I can do, is instead of that, we'll do, let's see, get rid of this. We'll convert our expires into milliseconds, like that. So now this should, we could just compare this against date.now going forward, and it should be fine. So that's authenticate. Get token, we probably don't need to get the token from anywhere except for inside this function, so we'll say const get token equals async function. Whoa, little C# came out there in me. Drop that curly bracket on the bottom line. I don't know if I'm still alive, actually. If somebody's out there, do me a favor, give me a holler, because it looks like my iPad stream might have died. which is why I keep this up, just to make sure that something's happening. Let's see here. Try and open this one more time. Give me 1 sec. Okay, looks like I'm still good. I don't know, that's weird. It like my stream on my iPad died, because usually I like keeping an eye on it, making sure it's still working. And it just noticed the screen was off, which is not usual. So, okay, so if we're gonna check to see if the token's expired. If token or token.expiry is less than date.now, then we will authenticate equals, let's see, await authenticate, and then in the end we're going to return the token. So we'll never actually access this thing from inside of this method. We're gonna just we're gonna offload handling this to the authenticate function, and then the get token function, which is going to allow us to basically make sure this thing is always up to date. All right, so subscribe to user. So we have to, let's see, exports. This is definitely going to be something we need to access from the outside. Actually, we also need to get user. So exports.get user ID equals async function. And I'm actually going to write some tests around this as opposed to doing it in real time. So we'll see what this looks like. Let's see, get user ID. We want to let ops equals let token equals await get token. And then we'll say let ops equals URL is, now this is where we need a base URL in. So let's see, const base URL. Going to reference in Postman what that looks like now. So it's api.twitch.tv/helix. So we're going to say get user ID. User ID is going to be an interpolated string. Let's see, with base URL, and then we're going to pass in. It's going to be the user's path, URI, and then user and then login actually equals. So we're going to need a user ID here. Guess we can call this login, because that's not technically the ID, that's the login. So like if that ever changes, so like the login can change but the user ID never changes. So when you subscribe, if someone decides to change the login name afterwards, it shouldn't affect this, what we've written. I guess get user info is probably better. Get user info, because now that I'm looking at this, here I can bring this up on, because I don't have anything else going on here. But you can see this data we have here. You've got an ID, a login, display name, but it also shows the description. So I'm wondering if it's not gonna, this is not where we're gonna need to pull like the description, the profile URL, stuff like that. Okay, so this is a get. So method get, and we also have some headers we need to add. So headers, it's going to be an object, and we're going to need, let me take a look and see here. I think it's client-id, like that, and we have to pass in our client ID with every request. So process.env.twitch client ID. There's no body here. It's cool. Oh, hold on a second. Authorization. How did I forget about that? Authorization, and we're going to pass in let's see, interpolation. It's time for interpolation. A bearer token, like that. Okay, so that's our bearer token, and then we'll try catch this. Let's pass in an error, and let's say await let response equals await Axios, pass in our options there. Got our await up here. Yep, making sure that's good. So let's see. So I guess we'll just return, since we're getting the user info, we'll return response.data, which is all of the data. And then same thing. We're going to go to do handle me. Okay. So the get user info is good. I guess this is not subscribe to user. It's get user info. And we'll say subscribe for user. So I think actually subscribe to user is going to accept a user login. Equals async function, and we'll just say user login. And we're also going to pass in the Discord user ID, because we're going to save the user ID along. And the reason why we want to save that is because if anybody ever leaves the server, or if they start losing their points to the, I'm going to have a whole reset thing kind of in play when they start losing points. So it basically will unsubscribe them. You know, it'll remove all their subscriptions for Discord or for Twitch, YouTube. It'll remove it'll allow them from promo and all that stuff. I jumbled my words up like crazy there. So, well, you know, what are you gonna do? So subscribe to user. Now I don't have, oh, I do have. Yeah, I discovered this thing called this pub sub hubbub, which I've never heard of before, which looks like some kind of a pub sub server from Google, and like that was released like 10 years ago. In fact, they actually use it for their webhook system, which is interesting because I did all this research on Twitch and I figured this out, and then I started looking at YouTube, and apparently their system doesn't look like it's been updated for years. Like, people complain about the documentation about their setup, and I found some stuff that was going to let me write a system myself, but we're not there yet. So body. Okay, so we want to do something similar. I'm actually going to copy this down here, but it's a post. So because we're still going to need to get the token. Actually, most of this is pretty much going to be the same. We're going to have to modify the body a little bit. We'll also have to do let user ID, extract that from what we're returning, await, get user info, pass in the user login, which should get our user ID, which we're going to need. Actually, this is going to be response.data. .data? Like that. So what it'll do is, if you look at the, well, if you look at this guy here, you can see this is going to be the response body. Now we have a data, which is an array, and then here is our actual object here. So we're just going to pull that all right away. I don't expect to ever use this with multiple users, so one of them is probably fine. So we'll just kind of expect that to be what comes back. And if it doesn't come back, that means it didn't find anybody, which means that it's going to get caught somehow. So we have to write that. So we'll say ID like that. So ID, user ID, I think. So now, in order to create the webhook, we're going to create a body. And this is going to be hub.callback. And this is going to be our callback URL. We're going to actually process.env.twitch sub callback URL. We're going to have to add that. I'm actually have to create an API for this. This is probably not all going to get done tonight. I know for a fact it's not going to. In fact, I know for a fact it's not going to. That's right. I'm going to paste all this stuff in here. So we have webhook.site I was using to test this. User ID, we can pass this in here. And we're going to pass in user ID like that. Hub least seconds. We're going to do the maximum for now. I think we probably should come back and like redo this every once in a while. New Twitch API, webhook guide, so webhook reference. Yeah, here we go. So it's a maximum of 864,000. Number of seconds. I'm gonna say this in. Actually, you know what we're gonna do? Instead, I'm gonna add a task to Trello. This is my little Trello quick capture tool that I wrote, which I eventually plan to open source as soon as I pull all my own tokens out of this because it's all hard-coded right now. But I just pull this up, type a message, click enter, and boom, it's gone. So we want to, for Twitch and YouTube subs, validate user status and remove, no, not necessarily validate user status. We're going to say track lease seconds and resub if needed. Okay. Cool. And then everything actually for unsubscribe, I think, is the same thing without the hub lease seconds. I don't know if that's required. Let's see. Should be specified 0, otherwise subscription will expire before any user notification. So if this is required, but I also got unsubscribed, I guess I can set that to 0. So body, so we'll say data is JSON.stringify and then pass in the body. I think I got to stringify that. I don't specifically remember. Save that. And then to unsubscribe from a user, we're just going to paste this whole function in and say unsubscribe unsubscribe from user. I'm not even going to get around to testing this tonight because I do got to get going here pretty quick. Unsubscribe from user. We don't need, oh, I'm passing in the Discord user ID. Actually, I don't think we need that because we'll track that in a different service. So this whole XP service needs to be rethought because really there should be a user service that tracks all this stuff. I need this thing is getting complicated. So unsubscribe from users, unsubscribe, I guess from hub lease seconds, we could probably set that to 0. Everything else should be the same. I don't know that the callback URL is really required. Yeah, I guess we'll just pass the same thing in there. Okay, so I think this is all set up for us to be able to work with it. Let us maybe try and create some tests. Twitch service test.js.spec spec.js maybe I got that wrong. I actually haven't written JavaScript tests in a long time. Yeah, spec.js. We're gonna actually import our environment. So app do that, put that in there. We need to install Mocha and Chai, I think it is. I'm gonna pull up a Mocha and Chai reference. Mocha Chai. At least that pulled it up. While that thing is doing its thing. Unit tests, these are kind of more integration tests, so I don't expect to run these things all the time, but I at least want to test and see if it's doing what I expect it to before I call it quits for the evening. Okay, so var const assert equals require assert, and then we have describe. This is a test. Big old callback chain. I remember doing some of this back in the day. I haven't done it in a while, but dot undo. So this describes our test, and then we say it should run, I guess, and then function. Let's do console.log. Hello, just to make sure that this I'm doing what I expect to be doing. Do assert. Assert equals 1, 1. That should pass the test. And how do I do this? Let's see. Mocha. Smoka. No files found test. Tests. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. So actually, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, let's see. Create a new folder and say integration and unit tests. Folder unit tests. So this is going to fall under integration test. That. And we'll add here, we'll do test. And we'll just do tests slash starter. Oh, yeah, I got a test ready. Yeah, you can go away. We'll say test integration. And we'll just copy integration into unit, replace that. Okay, cool. So let's see. That should run, which is good. And actually, I want to do... There was a way that you could nodemon this thing too. Nodemon. So basically it keeps running. It's fine. I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to open up side of another folder here. Actually, I'm going to flip back to my handling secret scene because I have to add some stuff into the Twitch, into my little environment variables thing. JSON. I'm unhiding these files so I can get access to them real quick. All I'm doing is copying all those little environment variables that we referenced, the client ID, the secret and stuff. I'm just pasting those inside of my environment variables right now. I just have it hidden because I don't really want to, obviously I don't want to show a lot of the stuff on screen. Like I'm working inside of a semi-test environment. In fact, I probably should just create a test all this stuff and then delete it when I'm done. But I don't, so I'm working with what I got here. Paste in that client secret, and then I'm actually going to hit webhooks.site to just generate a quick little notification thing. Webhook. If you've never used webhook.site, I'll paste the link in the chat. It's a really cool site that spins up a quick webhook thing that you can use, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you can quickly you test if something is enabled to use webhooks. It'll send a message to this like temporary URL so you can see what the data looks like when it comes in. I work on a lot of integration stuff at work, and it's really helpful. All right, so there's that. So that's all in there. Okay, everything is hidden again. So I can do the client ID. So I'm going to test to make sure the client ID is public. It's not private, but the secret's private, obviously. Otherwise it wouldn't be a secret. And we're back in business. So let's assert this. I guess these are unit tests. So let's create a new file here, and let's say environment variable tests. All right, and then I'm gonna paste in that guy there. So require custom.env.true. This is basically testing to make sure that let's see, describe what am I describing here? Environment variable test. And we will say it should pull in the Twitch and we're going to assert that our expected should be that, right? I got that right? All right, yeah, that looks right. Is equal to process.env.twitch client ID. And we'll save that, and we're gonna run that actually. So npm run test. Process. Whoops. It's undefined, so it's not pulling in our process.env. Which means my tests are not going to get that same thing there. I'm going to run another little quick test, but I got to go to handling secrets again because I'm basically just going to log out the entire process.env, console.log process.env, and I don't want to show it on screen because that would be bad. Since I'm storing all these environment variables inside of the environment, yeah, I don't want all the secret stuff to be shown on the stream. That would be no bueno. Well, yeah, it didn't seem to want to work. Oh, you know why? I think I know why. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna bring this thing back because I don't need to hide this no more. I'm gonna trash this and open up another terminal, and I'm gonna get rid of that stuff there, and I'll show you. I think I know why before I even do this. So inside of dev, I have this set node env to dev. If I do that, so it's setting the test environments to dev too. This should pull in the correct environment variables file. So now let's do the same thing. Npm run test. And there we go. That was it. Because I have it inside of .env.dev, and this custom env, if you pass in true, it's going to check the node_env environment variable against what the .env. I'll explain this. Because I'm setting the node env here to dev, it's going to look for .env.dev, and it's going to parse those environment variables in, which is why dev works, test integration works. Now in production, in the production system, what I have set up is inside of my one of my deploy steps, I'm actually just spitting out an environment variable into the repository after it pulls all the code down before it builds everything. Because this thing all gets compiled or it all gets built into a Docker image or a Docker container. So that's how I'm kind of getting around that. So once all this is said and done, I'm going to actually have to go and modify the release process in order for it to get all the right new variables and everything. I was actually kind of stressing there for a little bit that this wasn't going to be an effective stream, but after a half hour of me derping around with numbers, it kind of worked itself out. Because this is cool. All right, but what this means, as long as this is here, I can import. I could actually do a lot of cool stuff now because I can start testing all the code for the XP service, which I'm going to. I'll write a bunch of unit tests around that and, you know, force things. And I'm going to write a datetime provider. Yeah, we'll do that. I'll get that. That'll be something I'm probably going to do off stream, and then I'll just report back on it next week. But anyway, so we've basically asserted that their environment variables are passing successfully. So this should work. And I'm going to create a new one for test too, because they should be separate. I should have a separate environment for everything. I do for, at least on my machine, it runs in a separate bot, and that's how I'm able to test independently of the production system. But I should ideally have that set up in its own separate container. I just don't know how to. I don't know how to dynamically switch the Docker Compose and Docker file and stuff like that in the stage of the release. Which, if we get to it tonight, I'll show you, but I don't think we're going to. All right, so I don't need this. Let's see, Twitch service tests. So we're going to import Twitch service. Twitch service, and we should say, let's see, we can't do get token because I'm not doing get token. Man, how do you write unit, you know, in here, how do you write unit tests against, well, I guess it's, yeah, I guess it's not technically part of that, so it doesn't matter. So we'll do, you know what I got? It should get the user info. So we'll test that user info thing, because it should do internally, it should handle the token. So we don't really have to assert against that, and I don't think it really needs to ever come out. So we'll do let data user info equals Twitch service, I guess awaits, which means we're gonna have to make these all async functions. Async Twitch service dot get user info. We'll pass in my Brian MMO2, which is my Twitch user ID, and we'll say console.log. I don't want console.log the user info. Maybe I do actually. Well, actually, no. What we'll do is we'll assert. Can I do? I think I can do that cool chaining thing. So we'll say assert. User info.id is, maybe that's a chai thing and I haven't fully understand. It's been a long time since I've done unit testing in JavaScript. Actual is user info.id, and we should expect a value, my user ID, which we have over here, and that is this guy here. Okay, so we will say all right, what freaked out? So you cannot find module Axios. What? I don't have Axios installed? That's like usually one of the first packages I install in anything I'm working on. Let me see on Axios. Okay, can it read property ID of undefined? So inside of here, let's figure out what's going on. So if I go into Twitch service, actually, if I'm betting something's going on here, though I don't really know what. So we'll just console.error this for now. Twitch service dot. I'm probably going to create a new logging wrapper to help out with this stuff. Service dot authenticate. Whoops. And then we'll pass in the error. We're basically going to do the same thing all the way down. So, yay, it's been handled. No, I need to do more of the handling, except to not just log out the error. Twitch service.getUserInfo. We'll save that. Twitch service.subscribe to user. We'll save that. And finally, unsubscribe from user. Oh, actually, hold on. I got one more I got to do. All the way up top where we got to get token. Actually, get token should never actually fail. It could if this thing fails, but I don't have this wrapped, so it should bomb out. All right, let's try and run this again and find out where we're failing. All right, so I've got ID of undefined. If I'm seeing Axios stuff here, 404 is not found. Well, I got to switch to my secret scene because I have to take a look up to this call stack, and all the stuff is probably going to be in there as far as. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so it's failing on the get user. Making sure it's got the token. Response headers, I want the request headers. Accept authorization bear. Oh, hold on a second. I'm passing in the full object, so that's why it's freaking out. Authenticate token. Turn token.access. Okay, it's still returning a 404. I'm checking my token again real quick. Undefined, really. I got to do some debugging. I'm sorry. I got to leave this thing up for a little bit. I got to debug the authentication stuff here. Find out what's going on. Token.expiry, console.log, response.data. So the get token didn't actually bomb out. Console.log, response.data. But get user info failed because it doesn't look like it's actually. I don't have a. I'm not setting the token properly. Somehow. Oh, you know what? It's I need to set token to null. That's what I need to do. Because I'm checking to see if the token doesn't exist, but technically it's an empty object. Here, I could switch back actually. At least until I try and do this again. So what I was doing here is I had token equals this open close bracket, which it's not technically null. So right, so I've got like if not token, then do something. But that technically has an object. So this is always going to be true, which means it's always going to be false, if that makes sense. This conditional statement is always going to be false. So instead of doing that, instead of doing what I just did, I'm going to just leave that blank right there. So that's going to be undefined. And then instead of setting this here, we'll say token equals, we'll open that bracket, and then we're going to paste this stuff inside of here. We'll remove that guy like that. Set that to that, and we're going to add a comma there. So now I'm actually creating the object and then pass it. I'm just basically setting the object to set that. So let's try this one more time. Cannot read property ID of undefined. Okay, going back to secrets because I got to go debug this again. This is a problem, and this is why I didn't want to do that. Come back, but I figured it's worth showing. The token is good though. I'm getting a token now, so that's correct. I'm still getting a not found on the user though, which means my URL is probably not right. Is it users? It's users. I have it set as user. All right, so I have get user info. Change that to users and save that. Let's try and run it again. And we passed. So we're good. So my Twitch service is working. It's getting the, I just showed my access token, which, whoops. All right, hold on one second. I am going to go and recycle that guy, and I guess we're going to call this a stream. Twitch developers. Authorize. Oh, I'm signing as the wrong damn person. Yeah, whoops. I had a console.log there, and it just spit it out. Okay, one moment, please. Remember this. Submit. Authorize. Nah, we don't need to. I'll just recycle this, and then we'll... let's see. You must keep this confidential. All right, so I recycled my secret. I'm gonna, let's see, where do I got a console.log? Console.log. All right, so instead of that, I'm actually gonna try this one more time. Should bomb. Yeah, invalid client secret. Okay, so hold on one more second. I'm almost done. Workspace settings. Dev. Let's see, client secret. We're gonna change that. I remember the first time I actually showed like my entire environment variables file on stream. It was like one of my second or third streams. Excuse me. And I literally just froze. I'm like, I honestly have no idea what to do right now. I'm like, I just showed everything, everyone, the whole world, the whole like 1 or 2 people who were actually watching me, that, you know, all that stuff. I was like, it wasn't a big deal. But, all right, coding. All right, so we're back. So now if I run this again, there we go, it worked. So I recycled my secrets, and I think, okay, that's working. So let's do, I can't really subscribe to anybody. I guess I'm gonna have to schedule that. I can't actually test the subscribe function. This whole thing is, yeah, I think this is probably a decent stopping point because I can't actually subscribe to anybody. Well, I guess I can, but I don't really have a way of seeing that it's working, because I can only go live with myself because I'm using my streaming software right now. I'm probably going to have to try and see if I can get somebody else to, you know, kind of help me out with this, or just do it off stream. I don't really have a good way of doing it. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it for now. I made a lot of good progress. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to, now that we have a good testing framework, or at least the ground level for it, I can test out all that XP stuff and make sure that it's going to do what I want it to, which is really cool because I don't have to test it in production, which is never a good thing. So if you join me, I appreciate the couple people who joined me tonight. Join me on fullstack.chat and come chat with us. We're open to developers of all levels. We'll help you out. You got questions? No, there's no such thing as a dumb question. We're all willing to help. But with that, I'll see everyone next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central.